have spent the last decade of my life immersing myself in the real estate industry as a real estate broker and now as a real estate consultant. And I have seen all the sides of the industry, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I love real estate and what this industry has to offer, but it doesn't mean that it's perfect. There are also stuff that I don't like about it, just like any other industry. And today I'll be talking about the stuff that no one likes to talk about, and you won't be able to find it online as well. The bad and ugly stuff of this industry. The purpose of this vlog is to raise awareness. Whether you're a buyer or a new agent, at least you know what the reality is. There are 3 unfair developer practices that I have seen, and this is not to generalize that all developers are like this, because there are developers that are actually fair and impartial and do a good job. But there are also some developers that I have come across, I won't name any names, that are not impartial and play favorites. Developers favoring other realties or agents. Some developers treat all realties equally, but others don't. Since we are in the business of sales, the realties that produce the most gets favored by developers. The favored realties often get certain areas in the inventory blocked out for them, get a higher commission split, and get information on your projects first, so they have a head start in selling. Still, we're in business and I understand this. But there's this one developer that took it to the extreme, and I experienced this firsthand. A few days ago, a client sent me an email requesting for the inventory of a specific project. So I gave him the inventory, he chose what he wanted to reserve, and we started preparing the reservation requirements. And then he informed me that he had actually reserved a unit already in that particular project through another agent, but he wanted to transfer to a corner unit. And he also wanted to switch agents because he felt more comfortable with me as his broker, and that's coming from him. So he wanted to make the new reservation with me. So I contacted the developer and they said that if he transferred, he would need to pay a transfer fee and the first agent would still get the sale. But if it was a new reservation, then he would have to pay a new reservation fee and I would get the sale. So I explained all this to my client, laid out the pros and cons, and he decided to go with a new reservation, even though it would cost him more, since he wanted me to represent him. So we complied with the requirements, and what was lacking was just the reservation fee payment to finalize the sale. So I kept on following up with the developer when he could transfer the reservation because he wanted to do it already. But to my surprise, the developer kept on delaying it. They said that he needed to cancel his reservation first, and they also needed to call him to clarify something. So developers calling clients for something like this is not normal in our line of work, since if there are any clarifications, email is usually the preferred medium so the conversation gets documented. So prior to the call, my client had already decided to reserve and had also emailed the developer the cancellation letter. But strangely, after the call with the marketing head of said developer, my client suddenly changed his mind. He decided to transfer instead and stick with his first agent. So because of this, I felt that the developer was not neutral in dealing with the situation and really went out of their way to convince my client to change his mind. Most developers don't really care where the sale comes from as long as their project sells out. But with this particular developer, they were really favoring this specific realty to the point of intervening in the transaction and influencing the buyer to change his mind. If they had not intervened, my client would have already paid the reservation fee and the deal would be closed. Loan takeout without unit turnover. Typically, when you buy a pre-selling property, you pay off the equity in installment. 2 months prior to end of equity payment, buyers can start applying for a home loan so that once the house or condo is constructed, the bank will do a loan takeout. So loan takeout means that the bank will release the loan to the developer and the developer will then get fully paid. The buyer will then start paying the bank the monthly amortization for the unit that they got a loan on. However, some developers request for a loan takeout during end of equity payment even if the unit is not yet finished, and they also go as far as to stipulate that in the contract to sell that if the unit is 85% done, the client will need to get a loan already Otherwise, they will start imposing penalties on the client. So this is a bit unfair because you will start already incurring interest, start paying the bank with interest while not being able to use your unit. Because although 85% is already technically almost done, it's still not 100%, and you still won't be able to use your unit if it's not 100% done. So this also happened to us. My husband and I bought a studio unit a few years back. We were finished with paying the down payment, and the developer was following up on the loan takeout. But the condo construction got delayed and was not yet finished, so we requested to defer the loan takeout until the unit was finished. So instead, we would continue paying monthly payments at still no interest. So this was actually more favorable to us since we were not in a hurry to occupy the unit, or we were just going to rent it out anyway. And also since the equity payments had no interest. While if we proceeded with the loan takeout, we would need to pay the bank an interest rate of 7 to 8% per annum while not being able to use the unit. Plus, continuing to pay the down payment monthly would decrease our loanable amount. Since I'm a real estate broker, I know these things, but not all buyers are aware that you could make a request to defer the loan takeout. Of course, it would be subject to the developer approval, subject also to the terms in their contract to sell. So if you're also in this exact same situation, then at least now you are aware. And prior to reservation, you also need to read the fine print in the contract to sell or check with the developer if they will need you to get a bank loan without turning over the unit first or without finishing the unit first. Another unfair developer practice is turning over substandard unit. Most developers, if not all, outsource the construction of their condo projects or house and lot units to contractors. This is more practical on their end because it takes so much manpower to construct everything themselves. So the challenge with contracting is quality control. Because contractors also have a limited budget and they need to earn, this further affects the quality of the build. For instance, prior to COVID, developers have had a budget for contractors of 15 to 20,000 per square meter to construct their housing units. So now as a buyer, what can you do to ensure you don't get substandard units? So before the unit gets turned over, developers have what they call a punch list. The buyer, together with a representative from the developer, will walk around the unit and the buyer will take note of anything that he or she wants fixed. So you'll need to check if there are any pop tiles, leaks, hairline cracks on the walls. Add these to the punch list and the developer will take care of it. It would be hard to spot everything during the punch list though. So if there's anything else that you need fixed after turnover, most developers will still accommodate this as long as it's a newly turned over unit. However, one challenge that I've seen is that if the unit has already been turned over, sometimes it can take a long time for developers to send people to work on what you want fixed. So this is why most of my clients who experience issues after turnover just fix the problem themselves instead of waiting for the developer to do it for them. One of my clients purchased a townhouse in a high-end subdivision here in Cagayan de Oro, and he asked me to market it as a rental. So we found a tenant for the unit, we closed the deal, and then we found out that his unit had a leaking problem. So he asked the developer to repair it. It delayed the move-in of the tenant for 3 weeks. And after that, when his plumber checked again, the meter was still moving, which meant that there was another leak somewhere. So this time he had his own plumber fix it, but it still did not get fixed. Like there were still leaks somewhere, which they still had to locate. Since the tenant's move-in already got delayed for a month, the tenant decided to just cancel the contract and find another rental. So these situations are something that I've experienced firsthand, and I'm sharing these with you so that you are aware that things like these do happen. And we just need to make the best out of the situation that we're handed. No matter how frustrated we might become, try to resolve the matter in a way that still honors the Lord. How about you? Have you had any similar experience, and what did you learn from them? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, I will see you in my next video.